Hey, I'm Nandi from Elizabeth Homeland, and I just released a new Max for Live device called Latency Manager. It shows you exactly where the latency is coming from in your live set, which tracks, devices or plugins are causing it, so you can identify latency issues and decide how to handle them to prepare your live set for a live performance or optimize it for a recording session. First, I show you the device, then I show you a simplified overview of how latency is handled in live. To open the Latency Manager window, just click on the magnifier icon. You can also key or MIDI map it if you want to access it with a shortcut. At the top you have your main latency analytics section. The biggest value is the overall latency of your live set, and under it there are 4 other values that show which path the latency is coming from. Individual tracks or group tracks, returns, or your master channel, or your driver's round trip latency if you provided it. In the middle, there's the track area that displays your tracks and their latency. Each track row is colored either red, orange or green based on the unacceptable and acceptable latency thresholds that you can define in the settings menu. Each row shows the color and the name of the track, and under the name you can see where the latency comes from on that track. This is especially useful for group tracks because you can see if the latency is produced by the effects on the group track itself or if it comes from one of the tracks inside the group. If you double click on a track row, Latency Manager will select the corresponding track in live. And at the bottom of the window there's the devices and plugins section. Unlike the tracks area, it directly shows the plugins or devices that contributes the most latency to your live set. And if you double click on a row, it will select the plugin in live. You have multiple options to modify how Latency Manager works. Every setting you modify is saved into the device, so they will be recalled with the live set. For example, you can change the size of the floating window and it will be recalled next time you open the live set. By default, the track area only shows tracks that has any amount of latency on them, but if you click on the eye icon, it will display every track in your live set. You can order the track rows either by their latency amount or by the same order they are displayed in live. To open the settings panel, just click on the gear icon. Here you can change the acceptable and unacceptable latency thresholds to your liking that affects the coloring in the device. You can also change the rendering scale of the UI. And you can reverse the ordering of the tracks and the devices area. If auto update is enabled, the device automatically checks your live set to update the values in the UI, and if you disable it, a refresh button appears in the header. Latency Manager also has an auto notify option. If enabled, the device shows a pop-up when the latency exceeds the defined unacceptable threshold. And now I'm gonna quickly demonstrate how latency is handled in live. Imagine you have 2 tracks. On each track, if you add plugins after each other, their latency adds up. Then live finds the track with the highest latency amount to delay your playback. If you have effects or instrument tracks with parallel chains, instead of single plugins after each other, they work the same way. Live uses the chain with the highest amount of latency and ignores the other one. Group tracks run in parallel too. Live first finds the track inside the group with the highest latency, then adds the latency from the effects that are on the group track itself. Then it compares all the groups to find the highest latency path. Then live adds the latency from return tracks. Just like tracks or chains, they run in parallel, so only the return track with the highest amount of latency will be added. Then it adds your latency from your master track. And on top of that, you also need to take into account your audio driver round-trip latency, or just the output latency, depending on what you're doing with the live set. And finally, if you combine all these stages together, you get the overall latency of your live set. So that's Latency Manager. I hope you'll like it and it will help with your workflow. Have fun with it. Bye!